Welcome to the Reprioritizing Self YouTube channel, where we discuss tips, strategies, and the real ish that comes with reprioritizing ourselves in this society. This channel is for any and everyone who does a fabulous job at taking care of those around them, but always ends up putting themselves lower on the list. I am Kiera, and I'm a healer and trauma healing coach.
And I'm Larisha. I'm a counselor, wellness facilitator, and founder of Wellness Brand with Love LC, and we are your co-hosts. This episode, we're super excited to be exploring self-affirming spiritual care with the fabulous Alafia Stewart.
Yes! Yay! So excited. So, as you all know, we're going to have a really juicy conversation with Alafia, but please stick around to the end of our episode because we will always have crystals, affirmations, and journal reflection questions to support you on your healing journey. So subscribe, hit the notification button so you never miss a video, and smash the like button for us because we already know you're going to love this. We already know. So let's get into it.
Yes, so today we're going to be talking about how to develop a self-affirming spiritual practice with the lovely Alafia Stewart, your favorite ATR, African traditional religion, internet homegirl, and hype woman for your best life lived, y'all. So we are super excited.
Let's bring her in. Hey, Alafia.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
We're so happy you're here. Y'all, we were cutting up before the recording started, and we're going to be cutting up through this, so y'all just stay tuned. We're going to get into it. So as always, we start with our check-in question just to see where we all are, what's going on. And as we are recording this, we are wrapping up 2023, y'all. So if you're tuning in from the future and you're past 2023, congratulations. You made it. And if not, we're so happy that you are sharing the last bits of the year with us. So our check-in question for wrapping up the end of the year is, how are you acknowledging, uplifting, and celebrating your wins from 2023? So Alafia, what's happening over there? How are you celebrating yourself for everything that you did in 2023?
So when you asked this question, I definitely did not have an answer. I'm used to prioritizing so many other things but myself. And so in having to really think on that, I think what I'm going to do in celebration of the wins for 2023 is to build on what my goals were that I achieved for 2024. So in recognizing what I've done, because it's been really hard for me to celebrate myself at various times in my life. But 2023 kicked my ass, and I also kicked its ass in various ways. And so for the battles that I did win, I need to sit in that celebration and really just build on, okay, so these are the things that are on the horizon. These are the things that I desire. Let's build some stepping stones because I'm one step closer to whatever the bigger dream is.
Okay, yes. Come on. You got that answer. We have something in the pocket. Okay, yes. I love that because the work never stops. The growth never stops. Okay, it continues on. It continues on. How about you, Larisha? What are you doing to celebrate yourself?
This is such a good question. I also was sitting with this like, how do I want to respond to this? I feel like recently I've been in a space of reflection. So kind of thinking about where I was last year or this year, earlier this year to now, and just how many things have changed based off of the seeds that I've planted and watered. So I've really been taking moments of reflection to really acknowledge that, like, wow, like you shifted your reality. Like you're no longer, like, for example, working where you were at the start. Like this time last year, you were planting the seeds and doing all the things, and now you're in this new space, and it's like this just realizing how many things have changed. And one thing that I have been calling in probably since the middle of this year is easeful discipline. So and just easeful things that can be thought of as challenging, like trying to lean into it with ease. Like, how can I make this or lean into this easefully? So really taking that onward into 2024 and just looking forward to it. So thank you for that. Yes. And how are
reflection.
you? Yes, reflection.
That's
So
it.
how
This
are
is the
you
perfect
here?
time. How am I celebrating? I think, yeah, like it's been such a rough one. I mean, it's been some really great things about the year, don't get me wrong, but the last bits of it has been really dragging me. So when I was thinking about this question, I was like, yeah, you need to do this. That's why I'm asking the question in general, because it needs to happen. But I agree, like recognizing just where things aren't all bad and weren't all bad this past year. And I got a lot done. And so also acknowledging the things that I got done, despite all the different things that were going on and moving in life. So I think celebration wise, I want to really like take a real break, whatever that looks like. I'm not sure yet. So like just taking like a few days where I can just be really in that of the releasing of 2023, keeping the things that I want to keep, getting clear on what those things are before moving into 2024. And I think celebrating those things that need to be released as well, right? Like gratitude, appreciation, and thank you, no more. and I'm over it and I'm done. Thank you. So that's my plan, is like just having some um, concentrated time to reflect and recognize what really happened and what all I got done, and give gratitude for making it. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Yeah, y'all, we doing it.
Yes, yes. Thank you. So with that being said, let's get into this interview. All right. All right. So our first question for you, Alafia, is can you share with the audience your journey to developing your current personal spiritual care practice?
This is a wonderful question. Thank you for asking it. And if I could summarize my spiritual journey so far, it's been like the relentless pursuit of a higher rock bottom every single time that I fall. I believe that life has thrown things at me to teach me lessons and to check in as to whether or not I learned the last time around. So if I'm sitting at my new rock bottom, where am I at this time? What did I miss this time? And so just been a relentless pursuit to just fail higher. Never heard of that before, but we're going to go with that. I'm going to fail higher.
Come on.
And to give you guys some background, or the audience some background, I grew up in a Pan-African household, borderline militant, depending on who you talk to, that practiced African traditional religions, African diasporic religions, Lukumi and Ifa, respectively. And both of these religions set the groundwork for my early years of spiritual practice. In that religious community, I would be the equivalent of like a preacher's kid. And so the expectation was always that I'd stay in these communities. But then I experienced extreme and significant loss. My sister died in a house fire, and something in my soul kind of crashed. And here we were practicing a religion that has things like oracle and divination for the future. And yet my sister still passed away. And so it was just a reminder that the only things that are permanent in life are birth and death. And I was mad, y'all. I was upset. Me and God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, whatever holds space in your heart, we had beef. And so I completely walked away from the religion, and I sat with my grief. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? What is really happening? And so both of my parents were Catholic and Lutheran, respectively. I believe Lutheran before they converted. And something that they brought their children up with is this idea that you have to find your own truth. Whatever that is, you have to find your own truth. And so at that time, it was not as rough as some other people that I have met that really went through it with their religion and weren't supported in finding what was true to them. I had the opposite experience. My parents were find what speaks to you. And so I spent years going through that grief, but also reassessing my relationship with life, and then also my relationship with God, researching other practices, and just a whole lot of reflection and reassessment on religion in itself. Do we need it? Do I need it to be a good person? So these were the questions that I was asking myself at that time. And so when I was going through the multiple years of that process, I actually ended up coming back to my roots. I came back to Ifa practice years later. I got initiated into priesthood shortly after grad school. And after initiating, I became like hyper focused on the other side of the veil. And for audience folks that are not familiar, my religion has a set of hierarchies. And so there are things that you are not allowed to see, hear, do, or know about until you are initiated. And I was very, very lucky in that a part of my, lucky or unlucky, I guess time will tell. But I was invited to be a part of a documentary. And so the door of knowledge and being invited into conversations and access to information was so much larger than I could have ever thought or anticipated. And so power, politics, greed, manipulation, violence, you name it, and somebody was doing it under the facade of my religion in an effort to control people. And so I got a good look at not only that, but also the wounded folks, the folks that are desirous to find love and belonging so badly that they will even be willing to endure and even defend their participation in their own abuse. So for every trustworthy and knowledgeable priest that I met, there were literally dozens that were utilizing this religion to be in a position of power to abuse people in some way, shape, or form. So for like a decade, I was on a decade-long soapbox, warning people like, this is what to look out for. Please be careful. I love everybody. So I really just want everybody to see themselves as the protagonist of their story and to really find the things that allowed them to win in life. And so that was about a decade of that. And yeah, it got to the point where every other day, I was getting inboxed stories and messages of folks finding out that they're in really toxic or really terrible situations within the spiritual community. And I was overwhelmed. And I even got burnt out because in embarking on being this public figure in spiritual spaces, I still had life going on. Bills still need to be paid. Child needs to be raised. Okay. So just life was happening. And so life happening for myself, and then taking on this seated position of being a trustworthy person in the spiritual community was a lot. It was a lot for me. And so I decided to step back from the religious community again and focus on living my practice by being a person of Iwapele. It means good or balanced character. And I tell y'all right now, it has been incredibly peaceful, a journey in comparison ever since. So that's the history of my practice.
Thank you for sharing that. Do you feel like in your practice now, like since you're out of that space, what feels really like every day, or I need to do these things, or like what in your spiritual care practice kind of helps you to maintain that balance and be in that?
Understanding that I am not perfect. I was never supposed to be. And the reason why I'm living this life is to learn certain lessons. So I got to come back. Okay. We believe in reincarnation. I am one of the people that I know I didn't sign my name on that reincarnation list. I would not do that. It's a hot ghetto mess down here. I would not do that. So I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that I'm not on the list again. And so how do I do that? By being the best person that I can be and the best community member that I can be. And just like, I'm not coming back. I'm not doing that. So I'm gonna leave
You
kind of
resolved.
help me not do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I love it. Yes. No, like us not striving for perfection is, I think, a big part of the of this reprioritizing journey as well. It's like we always want it to be perfect. We always want it to be put together and nice and got it all, and it's like, no, life is not like that. Life is messy. Life is chaotic. Like we're just here for the journey and the lessons along the way.
Mhm.
I really, yeah, I resonate with that a lot. Resonate with
It's
that a lot.
temporary experience. What are we gonna do with
Exactly.
this temporary experience?
That's it. That's it. And how do we make it about ourselves? If it is so temporary, like how do we keep bringing that back for our own journey? Because we came here alone, we leaving alone. What are
Okay.
we supposed to do with it? Yes. Yes. Thank you. So you talk about like self-affirming spiritual practice. And I would love to
Mhm.
hear, what does that mean to you? What does that look like for you, a self-affirming spiritual practice?
Let's get into it. So, firstly, I'd say you got to ask, who is self? What does self want out of their spiritual practices? How does self want to show up in the world? Because y'all, it's vital to have these things clearly defined so you have your personal beliefs and values well articulated to compare to what you are experiencing against. So, that's when you start being able to check in with your personal roadmap. Like an example, self wants loving relationships with others in their spiritual community, right? If I'm not being spoken to in a loving way, is it safe for me to express that? Does the dynamic shift afterwards? If so, how? So these are the things that I think that many of us don't sit with or don't sit with long enough. We may be coming from spaces of trauma and of hurt, and we're making decisions around how we engage with people around those things, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. When bad things happen to us, we should not repeat them so we don't find ourselves in the same situation again. But we also don't want to isolate ourselves from potential for growth because we are triggered. How do we grow past some of the things that we've been in? And the only I feel is if the only way that we can resolve ourselves to get off the reincarnation list is if we are allowed the practice of self-affirmation, self-actualization. And so anything that empowers you to be self-sufficient, empowers you to be your best and highest self is what you want to be a part of. Um, yeah. And any relationship that doesn't empower you is suspect. If the end goal is not the attainment of spiritual independence from that space or from people or whatever the case might be, then you'll find yourself back in a circle, in a cycle of things. But yeah, so when it comes to what self-affirming practice looks like, it's checking in and having the ability to check in regularly with your personal roadmap. So what's going on and self are matched up. Does it align? Are we in alignment? Is this space in alignment? Is what I'm doing in this space in alignment? Because if it's not, it will fail, regardless of what it is.
Yes, I love how you mentioned the empowerment piece and how whatever you're moving through, is it feeling in alignment? Does it feel empowering? Does it feel healthy? It's a continuous communication because sometimes things feel in alignment at one point and then they no longer do. So I love how you framed it in a way that it's a continuous conversation and dialogue that you're having with yourself as you're navigating what that affirming spiritual practice looks like. And it can be very individual, and it should be very individual to each person.
Absolutely. Your relationship with your higher power, your creator, is your business.
Yeah. Exactly. And I love what you were saying too about the self-actualization. Like you need to be given the space to actually do that. Like if you are being like controlled, or if you are being in spaces where you're not able to really be your authentic self, then you're going to have to come back and do it again because you're not able to actually do your work here. Not I'm over here like, dang, because I was only thinking about how clearly I am very responsible for what I do and learn, but not really thinking about how the environments that I'm in or like the other spaces too are either supporting that or kind of diminishing that or pushing me back from, holding me back from some of that. So that's really interesting to think about too, is like not only what do you have control over, but like what are the spaces that you're in that are supporting that or that are not helping you to reach that potential. And I think any places where we're like not able to be our authentic self is really that, right? Because like that the authentic self is what we're supposed to be here doing, and whatever they're supposed to be doing is the work. So if we're not doing that and we over here working at whatever the thing is that's not our purpose, we're gonna be right back on this thing. Ooh. Ooh.
Yep. I love how you said one or the other, because I think where a lot of people get stuck is in stagnation, because stagnation can sometimes feel it's not great, but you don't feel anything. You don't feel held back, but you actually are. You only have so much time in this life. You only have so much time with people. And not to say to rush things, but if you don't see a consistent level of elevation, question what's going on. Question why. Question what behaviors could change, what environments could change, or what mind frames could change. Because if you can't change your circumstances, you got to change your mind about them.
Yes, I love that. And that takes us into our next question, which I think you already touched on, is how can folks recognize if a space or relationship isn't self-affirming?
Yeah. So again, any space or relationship that doesn't empower you is suspicious. Okay. If you're not on a path that is clearly understood to be growing, and that's the thing, right? There's a lot of mysticism that happens in spiritual spaces, a lot of secretism that happens in spiritual spaces. Some places, those things are warranted. Like, for example, in ATRs, there are a lot of rites and passages that you are supposed to earn being able to be a part of. And though that has its place, it should never feel as if you are not progressing. It should never feel like, I tell people all the time as they're exploring their relationships with any religious practice, any spiritual practice, do you feel like your life is doing this? Even if it's slowly, inch by inch, centimeter by centimeter, it should still feel like it's going like this. And if it's dipping, then what I was saying before about there being a higher rock bottom, that's what it should feel like. If you're not feeling a higher rock bottom every time, why are we on this ride? Why are we doing this? Why are we traumatizing ourselves to have a higher fall every single time? Like, no. I would like to fall and it be real short, a second, and then I'm back up. I have assessed, my head is okay, my organs are intact, I'm all right. I see what I need to see. I've learned what I need to learn. And now it's time to climb back up because we're going to get a new floor next time.
Yes, I love that. And kind of like the second piece to that question would be, what advice would you give for folks in our audience who are leaving or thinking of leaving a toxic space or relationship that doesn't feel self-affirming? What happens after that?
So recently I saw a Instagram post that said, like, give random advice, whatever it might be, just random advice. And it's so funny that this question is here. This was before I had gotten a chance to think about this. I said, leave the first time when you think you should. Leave the first time. If you have any inclination that a space is not right for you, your primal response is usually the right one. It says, this is not for me. Now, whether or not, how far you go, exit, but maybe you peek in the window to see if it's safe again, but exit, remove yourself from a situation that doesn't feel in alignment. A lot of times we gaslight ourselves into thinking that, things are supposed to be hard, or they're supposed to be too mysterious, or they're supposed to be whatever it is. The average person lies to themselves 6 times a day on average. Okay. And this is about stupid stuff, like whether or not they want to get out of bed. Like, no, I really don't. I want to be in the bed. I want to be under these covers. And so just knowing that the human mind can gaslight itself out of recognizing danger be aware. So leave the first time. And then another thing that I would ask, especially if you're in spiritual spaces, who is the main character of this space or this relationship? Because main character and leader are not synonymous. Main character and guide are not synonymous. Main character and advisor are not synonymous. And so you should always feel like the main character in your own story. Like we look at, what is it? I know they call it the Karate Kid, but it's the Kung Fu Kid, like with with Jaden Smith and Jackie Chan. So it's just so Jaden is the main character, and Jackie Chan is in the support role, even though Jackie Chan is the more knowledgeable person, more experienced person, whatever it is. But Jaden is still the main character. So regardless of what situation is going on, if you don't feel like the main character of your own development, that's a miss. Something is wrong. What are we here for? And the answer should not be in servitude of somebody else's story. We have our own stuff. All of us have our own contracts, spiritual contracts, own lessons that this life was meant to learn from. And so if you don't feel like the main character, I would say pump the brakes entirely, do some assessment, check for levels of narcissism in the room. So all of those things, because there is a reason why clergy and spiritual spaces attract a lot of narcissistic and manipulative behavior. So in order to protect yourself, you have to have knowledge of self, recognition of self, and center of self as you're going through whatever it is that you're going through. Something else, if you're already in a spiritual space, watch what happens when other people leave. What goes on? Folks talking mess, folks getting threatened in any particular way. If you're dealing in ATRs, there is a lot of energy manipulation, hexing, things of that nature that people hold on to as being the reason why they stay. Like, I don't want anything bad to happen to me. And I don't know who needs to hear this, but those are empty threats. Nobody can steal what you have in you. Nobody has the power to hex you without your permission. Okay? Your mind, your consciousness has to accept that work in order for it to be fulfilled. So reject it. Reject it. And you being the main character in your story, you can also develop your own weapons. Okay? And what does that look like? Sense of self. Sense of self is the greatest shield you can have against anything that's going on. Okay? When you got your core values and things of that nature that are articulated in a way that you have engraved in your spirit, what other people are doing, how do I explain this? Learn how to only give a fuck about what matters to you, what matters to your growth, what matters to your highest and best self. And I know that it's very, very easy to fall into positions of fear, because that's what they do. Like when you're in a toxic spiritual environment, there's always either a head figure or a group of people that are feeding fears in order to manipulate you into staying. Okay? So that ties back to, if I'm uncomfortable with something, is it safe enough for me to be able to express that? And does the dynamic change? So ask these reflexive questions constantly. Something else I would say is that know that there's no shame in discovering you might have been used or manipulated in a spiritual space. You're not the only one. You're not the only one. And there are an endless number of people who have been in that position. And all that matters moving forward is what you do with this new awareness. Be kind to yourself, be loving to yourself. It's like manipulators choose people who are harmed and they dig into that wound. That's how they get you. That's where they stick the hook, is in the wounds that you have. And it is human to have wounds. So there's no shame in that. It's just somebody else, that what they did to take advantage of those wounds is their responsibility. Okay? And even if we find ourselves, like I said before, some folks being willing to participate, it's because they've normalized that relationship. They have a background, a history of those kinds of things, maybe in a different package, but it's the same kind of pain that feels familial. And so just release that shame, release it, let it all the way go. And then I think if you are ever afraid to leave, like anybody who's listening, you know you're not in a safe place is if you said, could I leave today? Could I leave right now today? Could I pack me, my person, my things, whatever the case might be? Could I walk away today? What would be the ramifications of me walking away today? Do I feel any fear about walking away today? And that can let you know a lot about what kind of space you find yourself in. So I hope that's helpful to somebody.
It's going to be helpful to somebody, and it's helpful to all of us, because there's a message for everyone in that right there. There's a message for everyone in that. I think what I heard very clearly is absolutely reprioritizing yourself, okay? Centering yourself so you know clearly on who you are and what you are, and you cannot be told that by somebody else, right? You're in pursuit of a higher self of who you know yourself to be. Not that you need to be changed, that you need to be different, that who you are right now is not a good person. The other piece is that like negative self-talk that I'm really tuning into is like, if we already are doing that for ourselves and we're already getting on ourselves and digging into that wound ourselves, it's going to be a lot easier for other people too to be aware of that and to also manipulate that, right? So being clear with how can you speak to yourself in a more loving way? How can you like love on yourself more in general so that when it does feel like somebody else is not giving you that, you are very clear, like, oh no, because I provide myself this high quality of care. Okay. So any other care coming through from there, it's got to either match this or go above that. Or else why am I here? What is this receive? What am I here to receive? Yeah.
Okay. Set the internal standard of how you are to be treated in this lifetime.
Exactly. Yes. So that you can, again, get back to the work that you're here to do, right? Okay. We're not trying to be like, we're on the hamster wheel and going nowhere in the stagnancy that you were talking about. So I got a message out of it. So I don't know about y'all, but I got my message. I'm like, okay, I'll be doing my reflections. No problem. Thank you, Alafia, for sharing that. And I'm just so happy that you're here, and I'm so grateful for your wisdom and just like your experience and just life, because there is something too to having to go through the hard parts of life, but being on the other side to be like, hey, I am in a whole different place. And I also have messages and guidance to share with other people so that you may not have to go through some of those things, or that you don't have to stay in those same places for that long. So I really appreciate that. And we into now, like, how do folks connect with you? What are your services? What ways can they connect with you and have you more in their lives?
Thank you. I love to be invited into more folks' lives. Thank you so much. So yeah, y'all can check me out on my website, heyalafia.com, where I have an Orisha divination. So specific to the religion that I practice, Orisha divination safety course. It's an online course, self-paced, a lot of information in there. It's geared towards new folks and folks that are exploring, so that when you get into the utilization of divination in my religion specifically, that you are prepared, that you know what to look for, that you know what is inappropriate, that you know what you should expect from that space. So if you're not getting these things, let that flag go off immediately. Also on my website, I wrote a book called Eyes Open, What You Need to Know About Cults While Seeking a Spiritual Home. And I think that as folks are on their spiritual journey, I don't think enough sitting with what does my spiritual life need to look like for me to be my highest and best self? What does it need to look like? And having that conversation first, so that as you're engaging with the world, you can better be prepared for what you might come across, especially in religions like mine, where there's a lot of mysticism. There is very much opportunity for manipulative practices, especially financial exploitation. So in Eyes Open, I take a general look at things to be aware of to avoid any sort of spiritual cult. But then I get very, very specific about my religion and some of the exploitation practices that you will see. And those are centered around finances. They're centered around being sexually exploited, things of that nature. And I really think that it is important for everyone that is on a spiritual journey to watch as many documentaries about cults as humanly possible. I mean, Netflix is a thing, Hulu is a thing, whatever, even if that's not your genre, please watch those things because you'll notice threads of behavior. And those threads of behavior are what you need to be paying attention to, because you do yourself a disservice by not taking a look at the potential environments you could find yourself in so you can better recognize and protect yourself. So I would highly recommend Eyes Open. Yeah, and there's actually a section of reflective questions inside of the ebook so that you can ask yourself some things that may indicate that you are in a toxic spiritual relationship and or cult. And I know that a lot of folks can be hesitant to believe that they might be in something that's not that great, but better to know and to operate within the frame of knowing than to be in a situation where things are not good for you and you can't name it, you can't put a finger on it, you can't really, figure it out. There's a power that comes with being able to name a situation and having a reference for things. And so I really hope that Eyes Open does that. And then otherwise, you can catch me on Instagram, TikTok at Hey Alafia. My primary methods of healing communication is through memes and other funny stuff because I like to laugh. I think that life is too short not to laugh for 80% of it if you can. So if there's ever an opportunity to laugh, go ahead and take it. And I believe that even in inappropriate times, if you need a giggle, go ahead and you get that giggle. You cover your mouth, but you get your giggle in.
Those memes be taking me out. They be taking me out, Alafia. I'm like, yeah, y'all need to go follow. Please go follow for just some joy, daily joy. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. This was so amazing. I love hearing from you, and I hope y'all get connected with Alafia. Do not pass up the opportunity to have this guidance in your life, whether that be through Instagram memes or through the ebook. I love that there's some reflection questions in there because we do reflection questions here. Y'all know that on Reprioritizing Self. So grateful for you, Alafia, and we hope that you may want to come back and talk more with us because I think people are going to get a lot out of this too. So y'all let us know you want more from Alafia because this is like the tip of the iceberg right now, the tip of the iceberg. But yeah, thank you so much. We're going to get into our crystal next. As you all know, we get into our crystal for what is going to help us on our healing journey. And we are focused on protection in this episode. So I'm gonna pass it over to Larisha so we can get into the crystal.
Yes. Y'all, so our crystal for today's episode is black tourmaline. So black tourmaline offers profound protection, grounding, and balance. This is what it looks like right here. So it's a great stone for grounding your energies to the earth, cleansing your aura, psychic protection from negative entities, getting rid of negative thoughts, releasing anger, releasing unworthiness. So very aligned with today's episode and very, very supportive stones. So if you don't have some, get you some, okay? Black tourmaline.
You need this in your life. Yeah, you can wear this with you for protection. You can put it in your bonnet. You can put it under your pillow, whatever you need, on your altar, whatever protection
on your
you
office space if you need it.
Come on, right, on your desk. Exactly, right. Take it to work. Get away, negative entities. I love it. All right, let's get into this affirmations. Our affirmation for this episode is I am a divinely guided spiritual being. The divine presence within me is loving and abundant. And you know us, we always say these in threes, so we're going to say it 2 more times. I am a divinely guided spiritual being. The divine presence within me is loving and abundant. One more time. I am a divinely guided spiritual being. The divine presence within me is loving and abundant. Ashe. It sure is.
Hey.
It sure is. Come on. We're going to get into our
Yes, I love that.
reflection.
And now we're going to get into our reflection question for this episode. So our reflection question is, in what ways can I make my spiritual practice more self-affirming? Again, in what ways can I make my spiritual practice more self-affirming? In what ways can I make my spiritual practice more self-affirming?
Yeah, so
Yes,
let
yes,
us know
yes.
what's coming up in your journals, what's coming up in the reflections that you had after this conversation with Alafia. Are there things that you need to let go of, to bring in more of? What do we want to keep the same? What's working really well? This is just a great opportunity, especially as we're going into the new year, on what, again, we want to keep and what we want to release into. Let it be in the past with 2023. Okay, let it be in 2023. Let it be. Let's move forward in 2024. I love it. I love it. Thank you all so much. So much. We are so grateful for y'all rocking with us. Alafia, you're on the last episode of season 3. So we're closing up with you. Thank y'all for being with us for another season. 3 seasons, y'all, and 30 episodes. So we is doing the damn thing, and we are going to keep it going in 2024. So y'all stay tuned and wait and see what we got for y'all. Like, subscribe, and share, because we want to keep doing this and keep spreading this healing, because we heal together, y'all. So love y'all. Appreciate you. Excited for our journeys in 2024. Peace.